Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the why, what, and how of newspaper reading. Today we'll be discussing the daily edition of The Hindu newspaper dated 5th May 2018. So let's start. There is an article on page number 5 which reads Thunderstorm warning for 4 states. It is a news because thunderstorms have killed around 124 people in 5 states. This topic forms a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic Indian and World Geography, Physical Geography of India and the World. Previously, a question has been asked in the year 2013 based on this topic. So let us understand what are thunderstorms and how are they formed. So a thunderstorm is a local storm characterized by the presence of lightning and thunder. It is a local storm because it occurs over a smaller area as compared to the other storms like tropical cyclones or the hurricanes. Now let's have a look at the characteristics of a thunderstorm. So the first characteristic of thunderstorm is that they develop over small areas. As discussed earlier, they do not have a wide area of influence like the tropical cyclones. The second characteristic of a thunderstorm is that they are of short duration and are violent in nature. The third characteristic is that during thunderstorm, cumulonimbus clouds are formed. So now let's understand what are cumulonimbus clouds. Cumulonimbus cloud is a dense, towering vertical cloud. This is formed when moisture is carried upward by powerful upward air currents. The diagram shows a cumulonimbus cloud, which is vertical in nature. Next, let us understand how are thunderstorms formed. The thunderstorms are usually preceded and caused by a spell of intense heat. Now, due to this intense spell of heat, there is a vertical updraft of warm air. This vertical updraft of warm air forms the cumulonimbus clouds. Now, when the moisture is available in the atmosphere, thunderstorms are formed, and when the moisture is absent, dust storms take place. Further, it is a manifestation of atmospheric instability. Now, this atmospheric instability is developed because of a temperature difference between the upper and the lower atmosphere. That is, the lower layers are hot while the upper atmosphere is cold. This difference leads to instability in atmosphere. So this atmospheric instability is caused by temperature difference, which is created between the upper layers and the lower layers of the atmosphere. So this temperature difference leads to instability in the atmosphere and leads to the formation of the thunderstorms. So we can say that the potential and heat energy gets converted into the kinetic energy. And once the storm is over, the atmosphere returns to its stable state. So in the formation of thunderstorms, we have learned that they are preceded and caused by a spell of intense heat. There is a vertical updraft of warm air. Cumulonimbus clouds are formed. And when the moisture is available, thunderstorms are formed. And when it is unavailable, the dust storms are formed. It is a manifestation of atmospheric instability. And in the end, we learn that potential and heat energy gets converted into kinetic energy. Now let us have a look at the factors that led to the formation of thunderstorms and dust storms in the central and northern parts of India. So according to the meteorology department, in the present case, moist easterly winds blowing from the Bay of Bengal were joined by dry winds from the northwestern direction. Now due to the presence of these two systems, atmospheric instability was created and this led to the formation of the thunderstorms. Next we will look at the causes of deaths due to thunderstorms and also the issues with the prediction system of the thunderstorms. Now thunderstorm produces lightnings. These lightnings lead to the collapse of walls and houses. Further, people are electrocuted after the power lines are snapped or if they are working in water-filled farmlands. Now let us see why it is difficult to predict thunderstorms. So the issues with predictions are, first, these storms are very localized in nature. That is, they have a very small spread. Second, it is difficult to predict the precise location and time. Further, only alerts and warnings of general nature can be provided. Thus, it becomes difficult to predict the occurrence of a thunderstorm. So we have understood that what are thunderstorms, what are the general characteristics of thunderstorms, how are thunderstorms formed, and finally, why the thunderstorms were formed in the northern and the central parts of India. Also, the causes of death and the issues with the predictions of the thunderstorm. Now let us have a look at the question that was asked in 2013 preliminary exam. The question says, during a thunderstorm, the thunder in the skies is produced by, first, meeting of cumulonimbus clouds in the sky. This statement is wrong because thunder is produced by lightning. Second statement says that lightning that separates the nimbus clouds. This statement is also incorrect because lightning is produced within the cloud. Third, violent upward movement of air and water particles. This statement is also incorrect because this is the cause of formation of thunderstorm and not of the lightning. Lightning is a consequence of the thunderstorm. So the answer is D. None of the above produces the thunder. With this, let us move on to the next article. There is an article on the last page, that is the page number 18, which reads, fasting may boost stem cell regeneration. This topic falls under the general science part of the preliminary examination. Previously, a question has been asked in the preliminary examination in the year 2012. Also, a mains question was asked in the paper 3 general studies in the year 2017. So let us have a look at it from the preliminary point of view. Stem cells are the biological cells that can differentiate into other types of cells. For example, in a developing embryo, stem cells can differentiate into specialized cells. These stem cells are of two types. First, the embryonic stem cells and the adult stem cells. These embryonic cells, that is, the embryonic stem cells, these are isolated from the blastocysts. Now let us understand what are blastocysts. It is a structure formed in the early development of mammals. This subsequently forms into an embryo. The adult stem cells are found in tissues of the human body. Example, the bone marrow, the adipose tissue, and the blood. Now under this, we have understood that stem cells are biological cells that can differentiate into specialized cells. These are of two types, embryonic stem cells and the adult stem cells. Embryonic stem cells can be isolated from blastocysts. Adult stem cells can be isolated from tissues of the human body. Now let us understand where are stem cells used. Adult stem cells are frequently used in various medical therapies like the bone marrow transplantation. Secondly, the stem cells are artificially grown and transformed into specialized cells where they can be used for organ transplant or medical therapies. Thirdly, the stem cells are also used for drug screening, that is, to identify the disease-specific response of any drug, or personalized drug screening, that is, identifying whether a drug is useful for an individual or not. The properties of stem cells that make them useful in medical therapies and organ transplants are, first, the self-renewal property, that is, they can produce more of the same types of stem cells. Secondly, the potency, that is, the capacity to differentiate into specialized cell types. So the uses of stem cells are in medical therapies, in organ transplant, and drug screening. The important properties of stem cells are self-renewal and the potency. Now let us try to answer the question that was asked in 2012. With reference to stem cells frequently in the news, which of the following statement is or are correct? The first statement says that stem cells can be derived from mammals only. This statement is wrong because they can be derived from any of the multicellular organisms. The second option is stem cells can be used for screening new drugs. This statement is correct. Third, stem cells can be used for medical therapies. This statement is also correct. So the correct answer is B. Now let us move on to the next article. There is an article on page number 6 which reads Karl Marx 200 years later. This is in news because today is the 200th birth anniversary of Karl Marx. Now this topic falls under the General Studies paper 1 of the mains examination under the topic Political Philosophies like Communism. Previously, a question has been asked in the preliminary examination in the year 2011. So without going into further details, let us understand what is the focus of this article. According to the author, the ideas of Karl Marx have been a victim of terrible misunderstanding. According to the author, the ideas of Karl Marx have been a victim of terrible misunderstanding. He further states that revolutionaries such as Lenin, Stalin, etc. adopted the ideas of Marx which best suited the needs of their revolutions and the bureaucratic powers. That is, they used the ideas of Karl Marx to improve their positions. The author makes the assertion that the post-Karl Marx revolutionaries made Karl Marx a prophet of their own revolution and the thought system. He further asserts that this is the reason that many still blame Marx for the cruel atrocities that happened around the world in the name of Marxism by the autocrats like Stalin in USSR, Pol Pot in Cambodia, and Mao in China. The author says that the responsibility for the horrors of communist totalitarianism should be on the shoulders of these leaders and not on Karl Marx. Now, the author says that the revolutionary thought of Lenin and followed by Stalin hampered the development of the Marxist communist thought. And he says that this is the reason that after the end of Soviet Union, the original philosophy of Marxism is now seen with indifference or fear by man around the world. The author concludes by giving a futuristic perspective and says that the continuing ignorance of the ideas of Karl Marx would continue the impoverishment of people in a market driven economy, and therefore there is a need to reflect back to the original ideas of Karl Marx and not of the leaders who used the ideas of Karl Marx to their own benefit. So the article says that the ideas of Karl Marx have been misunderstood. Secondly, the revolutionaries like Lenin, Stalin, etc. used the ideas of Karl Marx to suit the needs of their own revolutions and bureaucratic powers. They made Karl Marx a prophet of their own revolution and thought system. So many still blame Karl Marx for the cruel atrocities that happened around the world in the name of Marxism. And that is the sole reason why the original philosophy of Marxism is now seen with indifference or fear by people around the world. So the author says that the need of the hour is to reflect back to the original ideas of Karl Marx. Questions can be asked in General Studies Paper 1 Mains Examination based on how the ideas of Karl Marx were misused by the revolutionaries of communism. Now let us move on to the next article. On the last page, that is page number 18, there is a news article which reads, Hawaii's Kilauea volcano spews lava. The article further says that the volcano erupted after hundreds of earthquakes in the region. So let us understand key aspects of volcanism. This topic falls under the General Studies Paper 1 of the Mains Examination under the topic Volcanic Activity. Also, previously, question has been asked in the preliminary examination in the year 2014. Also, a question was asked in the mains examination in the same year 2014. So let us understand the basic facts about volcanism. Volcanism refers to the movement of molten rock, that is magma, towards the Earth's surface. It leads to formation of various landforms. The lavas that come out during the volcanism are of two types. The first is the basic lavas. So let us understand what are basic lavas and what kind of landforms are formed by basic lavas. Basic lavas are the hottest and they are highly fluid. These lavas are poor in silica content. These lavas flow quietly and they flow up to long distances. These lavas lead to the formation of basalt flows, leading to the formation of basalt plateaus. A prominent example is the Deccan Plateau, which is volcanic in nature. The second type of lavas are the acid lavas. Let us understand the basic characteristics of these acid lavas. In contrast to the basic lavas, these lavas are highly viscous, light colored, and they are rich in silica. These lavas are explosive in nature and lead to volcanic bombs, during which large amount of gases are given out of the volcanic eruption. Now the landforms that are associated with the acidic lavas are first the lava domes, second the cinder cones, and thirdly the caldera lakes. Let us understand what are caldera lakes. During eruptions, material from the top of the cone collapses into the vent opening itself. This leads to the widening of the opening of the volcano and leads to the formation of caldera lakes. So we understand the basics of volcanism and the different characteristics of the basic lavas and the acidic lavas. Next, let us understand the world distribution of volcanoes. The world distribution of volcanoes coincides very closely with the distribution of the earthquakes. The regions of greatest seismicity are also the regions of large number of volcanoes. The most famous region where the volcanoes and earthquakes are found is the Pacific Ring of Fire. As we can see in the map, the Ring of Fire lies in the Pacific Ocean. Also, the Hawaiian hotspot lies in the same region. According to the plate tectonic theory, most of the earthquakes and volcano-prone zones are at the zones of convergence or the divergence of the tectonic plates. That is the reason the Pacific circumpolar ring, as can be seen in the map, is heavily prone to earthquakes and the volcanoes. This is because most of the regions of these oceans lie at the converging points of the plate boundaries. So in the world distribution of volcanoes, we have understood that the world distribution of volcanoes coincides with the distribution of earthquakes. The regions of greatest seismicity are also the regions of greatest number of volcanoes. One of the example is the Pacific Ring of Fire, which lies in the Pacific Ocean. According to the plate tectonic theories, the earthquakes and volcanoes are found at the convergence and the divergence zones of the plates. Also, the zones of plate convergence are the sites of most of the fold mountains of the world. For example, the Rockies mountain in the Northern America and the Andes in the Southern America. Through this, we have understood that why are fold mountains located along the margins of the continents. Also, the association between the global distribution of fold mountains and the earthquakes and the volcanoes. There is a news article on page number 1 which reads, GST Council approves single form for filling of returns. Recently, the 27th GST Council meeting was held and two major decisions were taken. We'll look at the importance of these decisions. The first decision that was taken was to convert the GST network into a 100% government enterprise. And the second decision was to implement a single form for GST filing. Presently, there are 3 forms. Now we'll look at the benefits of these steps. So the benefits of these reforms will be that first, there will be simplicity and reduction in the number of forms. Secondly, the simplicity and reduction in the number of forms will help in improving the compliance. A major decision that was deferred was the imposition of cess on sugar. This was done in order to subsidize the sugarcane farmers because already the cost of production is quite higher than the selling price for the farmers. So this was done to reduce the losses for the farmers. So the major decisions that were taken by this 27th GST Council are, first, the GST network will be now 100% government enterprise. The point to be noted is that it will be 50% under the central government and 50% under the state government. Secondly, there will be a single form for GST filing. The benefits that will accrue are, it will lead to simplicity and reduction in the number of forms, which will help in improving the compliance. Also, a major decision that was deferred was the imposition of cess on the sugar. This was done in order to subsidize the sugarcane farmers. With this, we come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.